Kabbalistic diagram. Up here we have catharsis. This is where I see Pluto. Over here we have focus. We have adrenaline here. And this is where I see Mars. It's not the same as your traditional Kabbalists will tell you in astrology, but according to Halevi, who I studied years ago with Robert Hand's recommendations, Halevi was the guy who put the planets on the chart, but he said, I'm not an astrologer, I'm a Kabbalist. And if you're like an astrologer and you want to do it in your way, you should try it. So that's what I've done. All right. And I went with the keywords and, you know, Yesod down here, focus, adrenaline. This is all about union. And so here we go. I'm going to show you what I think. Now, this union of sexual union has been given to the idea of masculinity, that it's Mars. Mars is a guy. It's for women, it's the man in your chart, Mars. And Mars rules the first sign and the 8th sign. So it rules Scorpio in the old ways. It rules, in other words, by day, Mars is the ruler of Aries, the first sign, the first place on your chart. And by night, it rules Scorpio. So, because in the ancients, they didn't have the outer planets like we do. We have Pluto for that now, which has proved out to be quite accurate in terms of a more global perspective of the meaning. But we can still use the personal meaning of Mars at night to rule the feminine sign of Scorpio. So what happens is these planets, when they had fewer planets to work with, they would have a yin representation and a yang representation. And that's what I'm really interested in the most, is yin and yang, and what it means, and why yin and yang isn't duality. It's not duality. So there's a lot to unpack here, and I don't know that I'm going to unpack it all in one session. I intend to unpack it over time. I've been unpacking it in my writing for years, and so, you know, there it is. But let me just show you here. On this side, the black dots represent the yin side, the feminine side. And this is not about people, animals, birds, bees, none of that. This is about energy, okay? This is very, this is esoteric, this is metaphysical. This is beyond our understanding, except for the little clues we get in life itself. And the little clues that come to us in life itself are actually the expressions of these two opposites. So the black dots are yin, the white dots are yang. In the center, we have, here we go. In the center, we have, there we go, what I call the creation pillar. Now in Kabbalah, the dark circles representing the feminine left side is called severity. Life is hard. The masculine side is called mercy, because the mind and the passion of the mind can be lovely and enlightening. So it's enlightening. And then in the center, we have the two. Now, there is a scripture of, I'm not a Christian, believe me, but I'm a Jesusian. I love the Gospel of Thomas and all those old sayings that were dug up in the jars in the 40s. And one of them is, if you turn a rock over, if you look under a stone, you'll find me. And then he says, when you make the two into one, the two eyes into one eye, when you make all these doubles into a single, then you're in the kingdom. Well, guess what, people? If we have the combination of the yin with the yang, we get the middle chewy center, and that's us. So we're the two packed into one. Now, that's why I put Mars down here in this center. Oh, I should put the Mars symbol here. Hang on. Give me a second. Be right back. Okay, now I'm back. I wanted to put the glyphs on so you could more easily relate to what I'm talking about. Here we go. Let's look. Oh no. All right, so if we place Mars down here towards the bottom of the tree of life and Pluto up here at the top, we also can put Scorpio up here with Pluto at the top. So if I put the signs on here, which I've done, I'm not going to do it today. It's going to confuse the heck out of you. But so Mars is right here, right above the Earth. The bottom circle, it represents the kingdom. It's the home of the goddess. And it's the temple in all the religious talk. The temple's the bride of Christ and all that stuff. So here we have and so right above that we have Mars. Now, I'm seeing these people here in the middle between the yin and the yang as hermaphroditic. In other words, when you mix the pure feminine, which is pure matter, with the pure masculine, which is pure thought, you get this lovely hermaphrodite. The world is a hermaphrodite. Life is hermaphroditic. We are hermaphroditic. I like to say that we are all a girl. And no, we're all a boy. Get this right, Jill. We're all a boy in a girl suit. In other words, the physical bodies of everything are the feminine manifestation of matter. And the motivation, the movement, the literal movement that we do, and the literal thoughts that we think, those are like the motors that move us, and that's the boy part. So boy in a girl suit makes life. It's simple. So when you have people saying, oh, the one God and the arguments and all that, well, we can get into that, and I do. But my main focus here is to understand these parts so that when you start relating to these parts of the puzzle, oh, how rude. Sorry. Oh, sorry, wasn't expecting that. Okay, so when you start relating to these parts of the puzzle, it helps you to get a better idea of how your functions are at their best and where they either need work or you just want to not do that. You know, there's some things that you're just better off avoiding, not do that, because it just doesn't work for you. And why should we force ourselves into situations that don't work for us? Why not just figure out the ones that do work and do that? It makes it cleaner and easier, I think. Anyway, of course, I've been trying all my life to do this, and just with success here and there. Okay, so Scorpio is Mars and Pluto. Now, if you look here, Mars, right? Mars is the lower octave of Pluto. Pluto's up here at the top. So, you know, if you think chakras, you're going to have the crown chakra, right? That's where the light comes in your head, right? So that's what that's all about. Now, Scorpio is where the union happens. And this right here at the top of this tree of life represents the beginning, but it's also the ending, because you come in here and you go out here. So this is the hole you come in, and this is the hole you go out of. So when you do these spiritual meditations and stuff, you have the energy flowing in from the top, and it bounces around on the tree, and it goes all the way down, and then boom. And right here, when it hits this last, next to the last bubble, that's when we get that union, that sex union. And from the sex union, we get life here. So all of this other stuff above is all esoteric. It's all theoretical. It's like quantum physics up here. And when you get down to the bottom one, that's where you have the actual events that we can recognize and relate to. Mars then is not exclusively a male symbol. It is a sexual symbol. And in order to have procreation and to have creation, you have to have a lady and a man. Now, there are species where supposedly you can have one thing reproducing itself, like parthenogenesis is one of those things, one of those favorite words from Greece. And parthenogenesis is where a girl can just have a baby by herself. And of course, there's a lot of that in the mythology, and there's also some of that in biology, because some species will change genders. If they need a boy, one of the girls will just say, oh, I volunteer, and she'll be a boy, and suddenly she'll be able to impregnate her sister. So point being here is that this is a lot more squirrely than we like to think it is. Now, if we just give all of the lightning sexual desire energy to the boys, then we focus on the way boys do their sexuality, which is with adrenaline, right? And so we get this thing of where the science studies show us that the boys actually, when they like to fight because it brings their adrenaline up, and that feels good to them. And that's why they like to compete, and that's why they like to beat each other up. And because then what do? They, the one guy pulls the other guy up, and he's like, oh, here we go, buddy. Now let's go have a beer. That's the way the boys do it. But see, girls don't do it like that. Girls, if you hit a girl, she's going to be mad at you for the rest of her life. We don't like it. So the way girls do this sexuality is more subtle, because plumbing-wise, girl plumbing is more subtle. If you take our bodies as little analogies for creation, it's pretty simple to figure out how the god and the goddess work together. It's pretty simple. All right, so in Scorpio then, we take this Mars and we put that hermaphrodite up here in this really high place where the light comes in. And in alchemy, this is like the cauldron boiling, right? So you've got a vessel, which is feminine, but you've also got that fiery heat, which is masculine. And they come together, and we have feminine and masculine styles uniting. So up here is where they unite, right? And this is the scorpionic story. Now, I have to tell you from my personal experience, I used to have a dream where I was in sexual experience in Congress, in the act, with a male, and this was very luscious. The dream was very sensual. It was very fulfilling, and we were merging together in the dream. I with this person, it was an energy, and I was terrified. It scared the hooey out of me. So what did I do in the dream? I literally pulled myself apart, like chewing gum, like a horror show. It was really painful to pull apart, to separate myself. And this was a really potent dream. I had this years and years ago, like maybe 40 years ago. And so when I was a young woman in my sexual prime, I had that dream of being afraid of that kind of profound union. And so I think that I'm not alone. The things that happen to me happen to other people. I don't think that it's exclusive to Jewel at all. And so if you can relate to that on some level, good. Because I think that's what we're talking about here, is this fear of losing your identity. I think that a lot of the stories about misogyny, about not liking the woman, is because this feminine ma, this black hole, does suck the light right in. You know, it sucks the light right in there, and the light turns to gray. And if there's fear, this light probably wants to stay bright, you see. And so emotionally, we experience these real energies, and we experience these in our bodies, and we do that at certain times with our emotions. And so what happens is, you know, we think that it's me feeling this, but what I'm really feeling is this grander scheme. I'm feeling a grander scheme that represents creation itself. And if you feel that it's not one God, but three, which I do, because I have a feminine, a masculine, and a combined. And I think if there's one God, it's me, and it's you. It's each one of us, like little cells in a giant body. And then, of course, the New Agers, the giant body is the one God. Okay, fine. But the way I see it is that it all works together, and we can argue all day. But let's just look at the picture, because I think it's cool. All right. Now, what I want to show you next is my dragon. Whoops, there we go. I love this dragon. I just ripped somebody off from the internet. So the energy then of Scorpio is this dragon energy, because it's a serpent. And this central pillar on the chart, the tree of life, is the spine. And that's the kundalini, the chi, all that energy that I talk about. And the spine, all these things are like soda straws. So the straw itself, the matter, the bone with a hole in it for the energy to pass through, the bone is feminine. The hard parts are feminine because they're physical. The energy parts, the unseen parts, are masculine because they're energy. They're like electricity. Excuse me. So the dragon represents that. And the thing about the dragons and the snakes is that the snakes regenerate, and that's why they shed their skin and they regenerate. And so the idea that the fires of the mind cause growth of the body, and that the only way for the body to accommodate the growth of the mind and the spirit is to shed that skin, you see. And so the Scorpio is the skin shedder, you know, and they're the ones that it can be really evil if it's cruel. It can be just normal processes of living and dying, if you know. So there's all these levels of intensity, but what the Scorpio energy is about is like autumn right now is the time of year when we say the leaves are dying. Those are dead things on the ground. And what's the purpose of that death on the ground? You know, it's filled with the prior experience of that being, of that tree. So those leaves that were young little babies, little buds, all the beauty is now dead on the ground. And what's it doing? There's information in that. There's a lot of information in those dead leaves on the ground. And what they're going to do is they're going to layer and carpet the earth, because even though the earth is hard like a rock, she's got a very tender skin and she needs to be covered and cared for. So that death part is actually covering and caring for the future by holding the desiccation on top. This is simple, I know, but I think if we really see this as a metaphor, if we see our physical lives as a metaphor for our larger esoteric experiences, I think we can come to a better understanding of each other. Because ultimately, I'm a moon in Libra, and I just want to get along. So I'm always trying to figure out, well, can I just not fight about this and just figure stuff out and maybe share it? So anyway, and my Scorpio in my chart is with my Mercury, And so I always think deep and thoroughly. And that's the other thing about this whole death carpet and fall, is that it's all about discovering secrets. So when all that the leaves fall from the trees, um, suddenly the branches are bare, and you can see the skeleton better. So it's very revealing. And if there's something in there that you don't want to reveal, well, it will be seen. And the person that has the strong Scorpio energy will see it and probably tell you about it, because I will. Anyway, so there's our dragon in the middle. Now, the dragon it pretty much belongs up at the top, in Kether, which is the top circle on the Tree of Life. Okay, now I have one more thing I want you to see, because I really think this matters. Okay, so here's my my figure eight. This is my eternity symbol. And so I'm going to give this a little bit of a punch here. All right. There we go. Yeah, make it big. There we go. Yeah, there you go. All right, so here's our famous figure eight. And, there's the Ankh in Egypt and the eternity symbol and all these symbols. Now, this one is, to me, the most telling here, because what I've done is I've given you a nice figure eight, but I've put the black dot on the white side and the white dot on the back. So this is the Tao circle. And I've just kind of laid it out flat, and so you can see how one thing transmutes into the other. And so instead of thinking of this as a line, see, the Tree of Life has actually given us this idea here, because what it does is it shows you that it bounces back and forth. Now, in this particular diagram, and the way that it's presented in the Kabbalist tradition, is there are all these lines. Now, when I've done it, I have said, well, this is very linear, and so that means it's masculine, which means it's been thought about. And, the thinkers are the ones who are playing out the masculine part. The masculine role is the thinking. So, and I'm doing it right now because I'm thinking and talking, and that's the yang. That's what yang does. All right. Boy in a girl suit, right? Okay. So, but what I wanted to show you is that when instead of having them work across purposes, if we flatten it out and look at it from the top, and we use curved lines, that's how we get our Ankh shape, our figure eight. And what this does then, it shows you that you come into these transitions on all these different levels. Now, here, let's do this. And we'll just make it a little smaller, right? And then let's watch that. So say instead of going straight across here, let's say the lines are real curvy, right? And so that really it is more of a curvy thing. But, if it's a straight shot from, say, from the idea here, straight over here to the body of the goddess in some level, it's a direct hit, it's war. And so that's where the masculine thoughts are sort of attacking. If you want to look at it sexually, you could say it's rapey, because she doesn't have a say, and he just does what he does. He's just light beaming without any restriction, just pure light beaming, nothing stopping him, nothing stopping him. The yang just does. It just goes and goes. It goes and goes. And the yin is then the sinkhole that brings it in. But the yin, if you look at these as God and goddess, the goddess doesn't have any opinion, nor does the god, really. They just are doing their things. And so without any intermediary energy from the middle, this is really brutal. It's very brutal. And so where the tenderness comes in is down here at the bottom of the center pillar, where the dragon, oh, I have to say, there, where the dragon comes in and says, I am going to refine this. So the dragon, the spine, and our body is then refinement. And that's what the yogis talk about and all the spiritual, esoteric spiritual traditions. I mean, you can just go through them, and we will at some point. But they talk about, refining and meditating and loving. And this is like the Dalai Lama says his religion is loving kindness. That's the center here. That's the center. And so right here, the crossroads and the middle of the tree of life, that's the loving kindness. And you can put the dragon right there in the middle and have that fire of love refining this harshness of the two gods in constant battle, and see that truly the kingdom is right here where all of that resolves. And so my thing is to say, we seem to be in a time where there's huge polarity, right? So what are we going to do about that? And maybe if we began to realize that it's not nearly as polarized as the gods, the two. So being here in this oneness is actually incredibly peaceful, even by comparison. I know I'm getting off track, or am I? I don't think so, because this is what Scorpio is about, is really accepting that union, that terrifying union between the two differing elements of creation that made us. Scorpio's the one who wants to find out those secrets, the secrets of alchemy, the secrets of the ages, right? Anyway, Scorpio, what do you think? All right, I think I'm done. Let me turn this thing off. All right. So take care, and I will talk to you again soon about something or other.